Jacob, you need to understand. Your sister deserves this opportunity. She's been working so hard. Working hard? Dad, I've been working this farm 16 hours a day for 3 years. Where's my opportunity? Don't raise your voice at me. I made a decision for this family. No, you made a decision for her using my money. My father made me drop out and work his farm for free, used my college fund to send my sister on a Mediterranean cruise. Hi, I'm Jacob. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please like, share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. I grew up on a 100-acre farm in rural Pennsylvania, the kind of place where your nearest neighbor is a mile away and everyone knows everyone's business. My father, Barnard, ran a dairy operation that had been in our family for 3 generations. My mother, Celestine, passed away from cancer when I was 14, leaving just me, my father, and my younger sister, Tallulah, who was 11 at the time. Mom's death changed everything. Dad became consumed with keeping the farm running, and I stepped up to help. I didn't mind. I loved the land, loved the work, and figured I was doing what family does. But I also had dreams. I wanted to study agricultural engineering at Penn State, learn modern farming techniques, maybe even help Dad expand the operation. Throughout high school, I worked the farm every morning before school and every evening after. Weekends were full days. Dad always said he appreciated it, said I was the backbone of the operation. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Venegas, told me I had the grades for a good scholarship, and combined with the college fund Mom had set up before she died, I'd be able to attend without debt. Your mother wanted you to have opportunities, Dad said once when I asked about the fund. She put away money for both you and Tallulah. It's there when you need it. That fund was sacred to me. Mom had worked as a bookkeeper for local businesses, saving every extra dollar. She'd told me before she got sick that education was the one thing no one could take from you. Tallulah was different from me. She hated the farm, hated the dirt in the early mornings. She was artistic, always drawing or painting, and Dad babied her. She never had to help with chores the way I did. If I mentioned it, Dad would say, "She's sensitive, Jacob. Not everyone's built for this work." I graduated high school with honors and got accepted to Penn State's agricultural engineering program with a partial scholarship. I was supposed to start in the fall of 2019. I'd never been more excited about anything. 2 weeks before I was set to leave, Dad sat me down in the kitchen. "Jacob, we need to talk about your plans." "What about them?" "I can't run this place alone. You know that. With you leaving, I'll have to hire help, and that'll cost more than we can afford right now." My stomach dropped. "Dad, we've talked about this. I'll come home on weekends to help." "Weekends aren't enough. I need someone here full-time. I need you here." "But college can wait. Take a gap year. Help me get things stabilized, and then we'll figure it out." I should have said no. I should have gone anyway. But he was my father, and he looked exhausted, and I felt guilty. So I agreed. 1 year, just 1 year. That was 6 years ago. The gap year never ended. Every time I brought up college, Dad had a reason why I needed to stay. The equipment needed repairs we couldn't afford to have done professionally. We lost some cattle to disease and needed to rebuild the herd. Tallulah was applying to art schools and needed support. Always something. I worked that farm like it was my own. I was up at 4 every morning managing the dairy operation, maintaining equipment, handling finances Dad didn't understand. I modernized our records, negotiated better prices with distributors, even started a small side business selling fresh eggs and vegetables at the farmer's market. The farm became profitable for the first time in years. Dad never paid me. Not a real salary, anyway. I got room and board and a small allowance, maybe $200 a month, but that was it. "This is your inheritance, Jacob," he'd say when I asked about compensation. "You're building your future." Tallulah graduated high school and immediately announced she was taking a gap year to find herself. Dad supported it completely. She moved into the guest house on the property, painted all day, and contributed nothing. When I suggested she get a job or help around the farm, Dad snapped at me. "Leave your sister alone. She's going through a lot emotionally." "So am I, Dad. I've been working this place for free for 3 years. "You're different. You're strong. She needs time." I bit my tongue and kept working. Then came last spring. Tallulah decided she wanted to go to art school in Philadelphia. It was expensive, very expensive. Dad and I sat down to look at the finances. We don't have this kind of money, I said, reviewing the tuition costs. Unless she gets significant financial aid, she'll use her college fund, Dad interrupted. That should cover most of it then. Mom set aside a good amount. Dad was quiet for a moment. Actually, Tallulah's fund is gone. Gone? What do you mean gone? I had to use it. Farm expenses over the years, equipment repairs, that loan payment when we almost lost the south pasture. You know how tight things have been? I felt sick. You used her college fund. I had no choice. And Tallulah understands. She knows the farm comes first. Does she know you're going to use my fund for her tuition? The silence stretched out. Dad wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad, you're not using my college fund for Tallulah's art school. Jacob, be reasonable. No, that money is mine. Mom set it aside for me. And you're not using it. You've been saying you'll go back to school for 3 years and you're still here. That money is just sitting there while your sister has a real opportunity. A real opportunity. What do you think I've been waiting for? You love this farm. You've said so yourself. Tallulah needs that education more than you do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've been working this place like a slave for 3 years because you guilted me into staying. I put my entire life on hold. Don't be dramatic. You've had a roof over your head and food on the table. That I've earned! I've increased profits by 40%. I've saved this farm. And that's exactly why you need to stay. Tallulah can't do what you do. She needs a different path. The money will help her more than it'll help you. It's not your decision. It's my money. Actually, Dad said coldly, it's in an account I control. Your mother set it up that way since you were a minor. Legally, I can allocate it as I see fit for family needs. I felt the ground drop out from under me. You can't do this. It's already done. Tallulah's deposit is due next week. I left the house and didn't come back until midnight. I drove around for hours, my hands shaking on the wheel. When I finally returned, I found Tallulah in the kitchen making tea. Jacob, you're back. Dad said you were upset. Did you know? Know what? That he was using my college fund for your tuition? Her face fell. Oh, yeah, he told me last month. And you're okay with that? I mean, you're not using it, Jacob, and I really need this opportunity. Dad said you understood. I don't understand. That's my money. Money Mom saved for me. Mom would want it used for education. My education, not yours. She stepped back, tears forming. Why are you being so selfish? I've waited so long for this chance. You've waited? I've been waiting for 3 years while I worked this farm for free. No one forced you to stay. Dad manipulated me into staying, and now he's stealing from me to fund your dreams while mine die. It's not stealing if it's for family. I couldn't talk to her anymore. I left again and spent the night at my friend Desmond's apartment in town. He'd gone to trade school and had a decent job as an electrician. When I told him what happened, he was furious on my behalf. Man, that's theft. Your mom set that money aside for you specifically. Dad says legally he controls it. Then get a lawyer, or at least talk to someone who knows about this stuff. The next morning, I went to see a lawyer named Quintessa Blackwood, who handled estate cases. I explained the situation, and she reviewed the documents I'd brought. Copies of Mom's will and the college fund paperwork I'd found in Dad's office years ago. Your mother's will specifies that the funds were designated for each child's education, Quintessa said. Your father, as the account custodian, does have some discretion, but using your designated funds for your sister's education is ethically questionable and potentially actionable. Can I stop him? Possibly, but litigation is expensive and time-consuming. And if the money's already been spent, recovery is difficult. I felt defeated. I didn't have money for a long legal battle, and even if I did, it would destroy what was left of my family. I went back to the farm and confronted Dad one more time. I want to know exactly how much of my college fund you're giving Tallulah. Jacob, I don't think... How much? He sighed. $28,000. It's her first year's tuition and expenses. And how much is left after that? About 4,000. I laughed bitterly. Mom had saved nearly $45,000 for me over 14 years. Dad was leaving me with scraps. I wanted in writing that the remaining 4,000 is untouchable. Jacob, in writing, or I leave today and you can run this place yourself. He agreed. We drew up a simple document. Both signed it. $4,000. That was what remained of Mom's sacrifice. But the story didn't end there. 2 months later, Tallulah came home for summer break. She was bubbling with excitement about her classes, her new friends, her wonderful professors. Dad beamed with pride at dinner. "Tell Jacob about your end-of-year project," he encouraged. "Oh, it was amazing. Our class got to take this incredible trip." "What trip?" I asked. "A Mediterranean cruise. We studied classical art in person. Visited museums in Italy, Greece, and Spain. It was life-changing." My fork clattered onto my plate. "A cruise?" "Yeah, the school organized it. It was like a floating classroom. We spent 2 weeks. "How much did that cost?" Her smile faltered. I don't know exactly. Ballpark. Maybe 5,000? I looked at Dad. He was suddenly very interested in his food. "Dad, did you pay for that cruise?" "Tallulah deserved the experience." "With what money?" Silence. "With what money, Dad?" "Your college fund had a little more than I thought." I stood up so fast my chair fell over. "You said there was 4,000 left." "There was, but I found some additional—" "You lied. You sent her on a vacation with my money." Tallulah jumped in. "It wasn't a vacation. It was educational." "Jacob, you need to understand. Your sister deserves this opportunity. She's been working so hard." "Working hard?" "Dad, I've been working this farm 16 hours a day for 3 years. Where's my opportunity?" "Don't raise your voice at me. I made a decision for this family." "No, you made a decision for her, using my money." I didn't wait for a response. I went to my room, packed everything I owned into my truck, and left. I drove straight to Desmond's place. "I need to crash here for a while." "What happened?" "I'm done. I'm completely done." Desmond set me up in his spare room and helped me find work. I got a job at a large agricultural supply company, using the knowledge I'd gained from running Dad's farm. The pay was decent, and for the first time in years, I was actually earning money. Dad called constantly for the first week. "Jacob, you need to come back. I can't manage everything alone." "Hire someone?" "I can't afford—" "Not my problem anymore." "You're being childish. This farm is your legacy." "My legacy? You mean the farm I worked for free while you stole my future?" "I didn't steal anything. I made decisions for this family's benefit." "Tallulah's benefit, never mine. I'm done being your unpaid labor." He tried guilt. "Your mother would be ashamed of you abandoning family." That one hurt, but I held firm. "Mom would be ashamed of you stealing the money she saved for my education. Don't call me again." I blocked his number. The farm struggled without me. Word got around our small community. People talk in rural areas. Dad's friends asked me about it at the feed store where I sometimes delivered supplies. I told them the truth. I'd worked for free for 3 years, while Dad used my college fund for Tallulah's expenses, including a luxury cruise. The response surprised me. Most people sided with me. "That's not right," old Mr. Pruitt said, shaking his head. "A man should pay for work done, family or not." "Your daddy always did play favorites with that girl," Mrs. Kensington added. Everyone could see it. The community's judgment stung Dad's pride. He'd always positioned himself as a pillar of the area, a hard-working family man. Now people saw him as someone who'd exploited his son. He tried hiring help, but he couldn't find anyone willing to work for what he wanted to pay. The farm's profits, the ones I'd built, began to decline. Equipment I'd maintained religiously started breaking down. The systems I'd implemented fell apart. 6 months after I left, Dad had to sell off part of the herd to stay afloat. A year later, he sold the south pasture, the one he'd nearly lost before, to a developer. The farm was shrinking, dying slowly. Tallulah dropped out of art school after her second year. Apparently, when the money ran out and she actually had to work to support herself, the artistic life lost its appeal. She moved back home and got a job at a local restaurant, helping Dad with basic farm chores she'd always been too sensitive to do before. Meanwhile, my life improved dramatically. The agricultural supply company promoted me to regional manager. I enrolled in online classes toward my degree in agricultural engineering, paying for it myself, one course at a time. I met a woman named Isolda who worked in the company's accounting department. We started dating, and she was everything I'd never had time to look for while I was trapped on the farm. 2 years after I left, Dad had a health scare. Nothing serious, but enough to remind him of his mortality. Tallulah called me, begging me to visit. He's asking for you, Jacob, please. Why should I? Because he's your father, because family forgives. Family doesn't steal and lie and exploit. Tell him I'm busy. She started crying. We're losing the farm, Jacob. We can't keep up with everything. Dad's talking about selling the whole thing. Doesn't that matter to you? It mattered 3 years ago when I was killing myself to save it now. That's between you two. I hung up and blocked her number too. The farm sold 6 months later. Dad couldn't maintain it, couldn't afford the repairs, couldn't compete with larger operations. A corporate farming company bought it at a price well below market value. Dad and Tallulah moved into a small rental house in town. I heard through the grapevine that Dad was bitter, telling anyone who'd listen that I'd abandoned the family legacy, that I was selfish and ungrateful. But most people who knew the full story didn't buy it. They'd seen me work myself to exhaustion. They knew about the stolen college fund. 3 years after I left, I finished my degree. Isolde and I got married in a small ceremony with our closest friends. Desmond was my best man. My father and sister weren't invited. Dad tried one last time to reach out, sending a letter to my workplace since I'd moved and changed my phone number. Jacob, it read, I'm sorry for how things turned out. I made mistakes. I thought I was doing what was best for the family. Tallulah and I are struggling financially. If you could find it in your heart to help, just a small loan. I didn't respond. He'd taught me a valuable lesson about family. Sometimes the people who claim to love you are the ones who damage you most, and sometimes walking away is the only way to save yourself. Tallulah eventually moved to another state, got married, and cut most ties with Dad. I heard she blamed him for ruining her art school experience by not supporting her properly after the money ran out. The irony wasn't lost on me. Dad lives alone now in that small rental, working part-time at a hardware store to make ends meet. The family farm that had been in our family for 3 generations is now corporate property, the farmhouse demolished and replaced with industrial buildings. I don't feel guilty. I didn't destroy that legacy. He did. The moment he decided one child was worth more than the other, the moment he stole from me to fund a cruise while I worked for free. Some relatives have suggested I should reconcile, that life is short and family is important. But I remember every sunrise I watched from the barn, every birthday I spent covered in manure, every dream I deferred while Tallulah pursued hers on my dime. The farm is gone. My college fund is gone. But I have my life back, and that's worth more than any inheritance. If your parent sacrificed your future for a sibling's benefit, would you have stayed and tried to work things out, or would you have walked away like I did?